Today I wanted to show you guys how to get your QLab video cues to go from looking like this to looking like this. A lot simpler, flexible, and save you time during busy tech week. So let's look at what's going on in here. This is the way I've seen a lot of people do it. Real quick, I'm going to go in and black out desktop backgrounds. Then I'm going to hit Alt while I hit that. That'll make this go smaller. I'm going to open the Audition window, which is here, or Shift Command A, so you can have a side-by-side view. So this first hue is going to come out on top, on my top layer at 0 opacity, and then this next hue below it is going to fade it in from 0 to 100. So you see that? No surprises there. This next one though, we have it start at 0 opacity on the top, fade up to 100% opacity, and then we stop this cue before it. Otherwise, you just get going on your whole show. You never have these cues stopped and you just start eating up your CPU. So I hit this group and you see it crossfades to Edna. So to do all this, the amount of time it takes, you have to take your video cue, add a fade cue, then a stop cue. If this looks different, this is just because I resized this window. You see as it gets smaller, they summarize all these cues into just a drop-down menu. So you add a stop cue. You have to make sure that your video starts at 0 opacity. You can just click in the field and drag down, and you can just click this checkbox or just adjust it and it'll fade that parameter. Then you have to make sure that this stop cue targets the previous video cue. So you can just drag this over there. To put these into a group, you can just select them and then make a new group cue, or Command 0 is a shortcut for that. Then we have to make sure that this is set to auto continue, and this one is set to auto follow. So these two cues happen at the same time. Then after it fades up, then we stop the one behind it. So that takes like 30 seconds. I don't know. I didn't time myself, but kind of a hassle. I'm going to show you guys how to do this one. In fact, I'm going to start from scratch. So let's make a new cue list. I'll call this better. Oh, I already have one of those. Even better cue list. So we have an even better cue list. I'm going to close the audition window so I can see my files. I'm going to drag in a black image I have as well. I'll show you guys why. Open up the audition window again. Add this to the top. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to select all of them and change two properties. Change this from top layer to bottom layer by hitting the top arrow there. Then go into triggers and do fade and stop peers over time to 1 second. Or whatever crossfade time you want, you can fill in there. And then that's it. So what happens, the difference between these two is in this one, we have a new video that starts out at 0% opacity on top, then it fades up in front of the other ones, and then we just stop the cue behind it. It doesn't matter if we fade that out because we don't see it anymore because it's being covered up with these full screen graphics. With this method, we'll start the black cue. You can see it start up, sending to my surface here. What happens here is this next cue is going to come in underneath that, and we're going to fade and stop the cue that's in front of it, that's blocking it. So you see it's going to dissolve away to reveal the slide behind it. And because it's set to fade and stop peers, that means I can go out of order and it'll work just fine. So it looks more like just crossfading a bunch of slides. The super easy thing to do is I can go into Cue Templates, go into Video Cues. You can go into Display and Geometry, set this to bottom, set this to fade and stop peers, and then let's just do that again for the example. Command delete to delete all the cues. I can just drag all these cues in, reorder them, open up Audition, and I'm already in business. That easy. So compared to here again, so if I were to change the order of some of these, it's doable. I can drag Billy and put him before Edna. I just have to be sure that I stop this atom cue here, and that this one then stops this cue. So as I go through them, it's stopping the right one behind it, so I don't have other cues that get left playing behind it. So you can still make it work and changing the order, but you can't just change the order on the fly during your show because you'll just have these other cues running in the background. So let's go back to this cue. This works if you have full screen graphics. Most shows that I've seen work in full screen graphics that change from song to song or what have you. Other advantages this gives you is that, so I do some shows where I have one main QLab computer triggering two other video QLab computers, and I can use OSC to change the properties of those cues. Here, let me show you an example of a video cue that's not just an image but an actual video file. So on here you have infinite loop or hold the last image at end. So those properties are in this cue itself, but if you're building your cues like this, your fade time belongs to another cue down here. So you could just have a system where your video cue is always a whole number, an integer, and then you can make your fade cues always 5.1 or whatever. This one, I can just have an OST cue that targets this one cue number, and I can change the fade time with the fade and stop peers value, and then I can also set those. If this were a video file, not just an image, I could change the looping or hold at end behavior. So one thing to understand about this is that any of the peers will be faded and stopped, meaning only one cue can run in a cue list or a group at a time. So what I like to do is I select all of these and I create start cues for each one. You can just select all of them, make all 8 at the same time, and that'll put it at the end of the list. Then I can put all of these into a group, and then these will fade and stop each other, but these other cues can run and not be stopped. Or if I had an audio cue in here, that could run and not be panicked or stopped. What I usually like to do is I like to take all of these video files and I put them into a separate video playlist here. And then in my main workspace, my main cue list, I'll just have all the audio files mingled in here, and I can show that more in depth on another video. Another thing that this lets you do, so I'll close Audition, so I can grab this border mask. This is something I've seen people do. Let's open up Audition again. So I can start this cue, and if I make sure this is set to top, and that doesn't fade and stop all peers, you can use your own custom image to create a mask on the top that you can adjust. So I can go in here and I can raise this up to just make the top fade in a little bit with that kind of watercolor paint effect. And then that will stay on top as many times as I change these cues. So these all swap out with each other on the bottom, and this border mask stays on top. You can also do this with lower thirds or other graphics that you want to temporarily pop in. So you can take this and hide this into, sometimes I'll have another cue list of just scripts and other kind of things that are under the hood that get triggered at the beginning of the show but keep playing off to the side. Doing your video cues this way 99% of the time is going to be so much more convenient, so much more flexible, and just less work. All around better option. Thanks for watching. Hopefully I could show you a new thing or two from QLab. Let me know in the comments if there's something else you like to do or if there's anything that you want me to explore in other videos. See you then.